It begins with a vibration, faint, like a memory stirring beneath the soil. Dust trembles along the cracked riverbed. Something ancient moves through the silence. What if memory has weight and the earth feels its footsteps before the eyes do? From the far ridge, a shape emerges, vast, deliberate, impossible to mistake. The rangers freeze. She's returned. The elephant they once saved. The elephant they once saved. The forest seems to hold its breath, the air thick with something unspoken. Even the birds fall silent. What pulls her back to this place of pain? Forgiveness, grief, or something we humans will never name. She pauses where the old trap once lay, tracing her trunk across the ground. And then, a sound like a sigh, low and trembling, rolling through the valley. It isn't a cry. It's remembrance. The wind shifts. A faint smell of rain and old iron drifts through the air. The scent of the past, of metal and blood, and the silent witnesses of pain. The rangers remember the day. They found her tangled in wire, her eyes glazed with agony yet filled with defiance. Now she stands free, in the same place, her breath a steady rhythm against the morning quiet. What does she see that they cannot? What memories are replaying behind those amber eyes? Neela raises her camera but lowers it just as quickly. Some moments she thinks should not be captured, only felt. The air hums with tension, not of fear, but of recognition. In the hush between heartbeats, they sense something sacred, an intelligence older than their understanding, a presence remembering what humanity tried to forget. A low rumble escapes Amaya's chest. Not anger, not warning, but something softer. The sound vibrates through the soil, through their boots, through memory itself. The forest listens. Kofi lowers his head, as if in prayer. Somewhere distant, thunder answers, faint and delayed, like an echo of her sorrow. Ravi takes a hesitant step forward, his voice trembling as he whispers her name. The elephant turns slightly, her gaze brushing past him, not seeing a man, but a memory of hands that once freed her. For a heartbeat, the boundary between species, between savior and saved, dissolves. The earth feels alive again, pulsing with unspoken understanding, and in that silence, every life feels connected, fragile, beautiful, temporary. The sky darkens as a whisper of rain begins to fall. Light, hesitant, like tears testing the earth. The clearing transforms. Droplets cling to Amaya's skin, tracing the scars that mark her survival. She doesn't move, as if offering herself to the rain in silence. Neela watches the water slide along the old wound on Amaya's flank and wonders. Do animals remember pain the way we do? Or do they remember only the hands that healed them? The sound of the rain deepens, soft drumming blending with Amaya's steady breath. The rangers stand still, drenched but unmoving, their fear replaced by awe. In that shared moment, the line between guilt and grace disappears. Nature forgives, but never forgets. The rain stops as suddenly as it began. Steam rises from the wet soil, twisting upward like breath. Amaya shifts her weight, trunk lowering again to the ground, to the same patch of dirt where she nearly died. Slowly, deliberately, she gathers fallen branches and dry grass with her trunk. The rangers watch, speechless, as she forms a small mound. Then, with astonishing gentleness, she bows her head over it, a gesture that feels both ritual and farewell. No one moves. The forest seems to understand. When she finally turns away, the air feels lighter, the past forgiven but not erased. Ravi wipes his face, unsure if it's rain or tears. What if grief in its purest form is just love remembering? The morning after mist drapes the valley like memory refusing to fade. Amaya hasn't left the clearing. She stands over the small mound she built, her shadow long and still. The rangers approach quietly, unsure whether to interrupt what feels sacred. The air carries the scent of damp earth and crushed grass, the residue of rain and revelation. Neela studies Amaya's movements, each slow breath, each gentle sway, and realizes it's not random. It's ritual. Elephants, she remembers, mourn their dead. But here, there was no body. Only the place where her suffering ended. Maybe she isn't mourning death at all. Maybe she's recognizing life. As sunlight pierces the fog, Amaya lifts her head, eyes closed, facing east, as if acknowledging something greater than all of them. Kofi steps forward, breaking the silence. He kneels beside the mound and brushes away a thin layer of grass. Beneath it lies the faint glint of wire, rusted, twisted, barely visible. The remnants of her trap. He freezes. The forest around them holds still, as if waiting. Amaya doesn't react. Or perhaps she does, in ways too quiet for human eyes. Ravi's breath catches in his throat. The air seems to vibrate with old pain. What drives a creature to return to its place of torment? Not vengeance, not habit, but memory. Raw, enduring, unsimplified. Neela whispers. She buried it. Her words tremble in the air like fragile truth. The jungle sighs, a wind through branches carrying the weight of empathy. Amaya turns slowly, deliberately, her gaze falling upon Kofi's hand hovering near the rusted snare. The forest seems to tighten. For a moment, everyone fears she might react, retreat, or charge, but she doesn't. She lowers her trunk instead, touching the ground beside his hand. The contact is delicate. Careful. Kofi remains still, his eyes glistening. In that fragile stillness, species divide dissolves again. Predator and prey, captor and captive, replaced by something wordless and shared. The forest breathes out. Ravi whispers, "She forgives us." But Neela shakes her head softly. "No," she says, voice trembling. She remembers. And perhaps remembering in its purest form is the only kind of forgiveness that lasts. The rangers retreat a few steps, giving space. Amaya walks a slow circle around the clearing, her heavy feet pressing old soil into new shapes. Birds return to the branches, their calls tentative but hopeful. Neela raises her lens again, filming not for science this time, but for remembrance. Through her viewfinder, Amaya looks both ancient and eternal, a living monument to endurance. Ravi speaks quietly. This isn't instinct, it's history. The words hang in the humid air. Every movement of Amaya feels intentional, measured. A living echo of time itself folding back on its own memory. The forest doesn't just witness. It participates, whispering through leaves and wind, she remembers. And so must we. As dusk approaches, Amaya finally begins to leave. Her footsteps are steady, almost ceremonial, as she heads toward the river. The rangers follow at a respectful distance. The orange sky burns behind her, painting her silhouette in firelight. She pauses at the water's edge and stares at her reflection, calm, aged, unafraid. The ripples distort her image, scattering her past into liquid gold. She drinks slowly, then lifts her trunk, releasing a deep, resonant call that rolls through the valley. It's a sound of closure, of something ending and beginning again. When she turns away, the world feels quieter, humble. Maybe this isn't a return. Maybe it's a remembering that never truly ended. Night falls soft and heavy over the reserve. The air hums with cicadas, and the river glows faintly under moonlight. Amaya hasn't gone far. She lingers near the edge of the clearing, her vast form a silhouette against the stars. The rangers set camp nearby, unable to leave her presence. Ravi watches her through the flicker of firelight, feeling something ancient unfold. Every so often, Amaya rumbles, a low rhythmic tone that rises and fades like a chant. The others listen, uncertain if it's communication or ritual. The sound vibrates through the night air, echoing off the valley walls. It feels like mourning, but also gratitude, a bridge between her world and theirs. What do animals pray for when they remember? Survival or peace? As the night deepens, Amaya begins to move again. She walks back toward the clearing, every step deliberate. Neela follows at a distance, her camera steady, breath shallow. Amaya stops beside the mound she built earlier, then lowers her trunk, brushing it gently across the surface. She picks up a branch, the same kind that once trapped her, and places it carefully atop the mound, as though completing something unfinished. The act feels ceremonial, her silence filled with purpose. Neela whispers into her recorder. This isn't instinct, it's ritual. The forest seems to pulse in agreement. Beneath the moon, time folds in on itself, and pain becomes prayer. Ravi watches Amaya's ritual in silence, emotion flooding his chest. He remembers the day they rescued her, how she screamed as the wire cut deeper, how he held her trunk while the others worked to free her. That moment changed him. Now, years later, she stands before him, healing the very ground that once held her captive. The moonlight glints on her broken tusk, turning it silver. She looks toward him, her gaze calm, knowing. For a fleeting instant, he feels she sees him not as savior, but as part of her story. Another being bound by the same fragile thread of survival. The distance between them feels smaller than ever. Suddenly, Amaya lifts her trunk high into the air and releases a long, haunting call. The sound rolls through the valley, trembling the leaves, echoing across the water. Other elephants answer from distant hills, faint rumbles rising one after another until the forest vibrates like a living choir. The rangers stare upward, overcome. This is no accident, no random call. It's communion. It's memory passed through generations, grief turned into song. Even the stars seem to tremble with the sound. Ravi lowers his head. Kofi whispers, "They remember her." The night feels endless, sacred. A world stitched together by sound and empathy. The calls fade slowly into silence. The forest settles, holding its breath. Amaya lowers her trunk, eyes heavy with calm. She turns toward the rangers once more before walking toward the river, her massive form dissolving into the night mist. The fire crackles behind them, small and human against the vast dark. Ravi looks at the mound, at the place where pain was reborn as ritual, and whispers, "She's teaching us how to remember." The others nod, unable to speak. Above them, the stars shimmer brighter, as if the earth itself just exhaled. What if forgiveness isn't forgetting, but remembering with gentleness? The morning rises pale and heavy, but Amaya is gone. Only her footprints remain, pressed deep into the soft soil. Ravi stares at them, silent, as memories begin to return. Vivid, relentless. The air seems to shift, carrying him back in time. The forest looked different, then louder, angrier, burning with fear. The sound of chains, the scent of blood, the helpless trumpet of an animal trapped. He can still hear it, the metallic scream of wire cutting flesh. His hands tremble, remembering how small he felt before her pain. Neela stands beside him, sensing the same echo. The place feels alive with ghosts. The wind carries faint cries from the past, whispers that time failed to silence. Some wounds, she realizes, never fade. They just find new ways to breathe. The flashback begins with chaos. Leaves, thrashing, men shouting, the metallic twang of a snare snapping tight. The scene blurs between memory and nightmare. Amaya's cries fill the forest. deep and desperate. Ravi rushes through the undergrowth, heart pounding, machete in hand. She's trapped, her leg bleeding, her body shaking from exhaustion and terror. Kofi shouts for the tranquilizer, his voice cracking with urgency. Time feels like it's unraveling. Ravi meets Amaya's eyes for the first time. Wild, terrified, yet fiercely alive. In that gaze, something ancient and intelligent meets his fear. The forest fades to silence for a moment. Then she collapses, and he drops beside her, whispering, "You're safe now," though neither believes it yet. The tranquilizer takes hold. Amaya collapses gently, her body heavy against the ground. The forest grows eerily quiet. Even the birds seem to watch. Ravi's breath slows. He kneels beside her, placing a hand on her trunk. Her skin is rough, warm and trembling. He feels her pulse, strong but fading. "Stay with me," he whispers, as the others work to free her leg. The wire snaps free at last, with a sharp, metallic crack. Kofi exhales for a heartbeat. All of them freeze, silent, reverent, overwhelmed. Neela, new to the team, lowers her camera, unable to film what feels too sacred to capture. That day became their unspoken promise to protect what had survived the cruelty of human hands. Hours later, Amaya stirs. The team watches as her eyelids flutter open, amber light catching in her gaze. She rises slowly, trembling but alive. The broken tusk gleams faintly in the setting sun, a mark of survival and loss. Ravi steps back, eyes wet, whispering her name like a prayer. She doesn't flee. She simply looks at them, breathing deep, her trunk reaching out to touch the air between them. The sound of insects fills the air again, life returning in cautious rhythm. Neela's camera finally clicks, a single frame capturing the moment of rebirth. Kofi lowers his rifle, understanding what many will never grasp: that in saving her, they'd saved something within themselves. The memory fades into present time, the forest calm again, the snare buried, the elephant gone. Ravi sits alone beside the mound, hearing the faint echo of that metallic snap that once changed everything. Neela joins him, silent, no words left. "She remembered," he says softly. Neela nods. "And she came back to show us we can too." The clearing is still, except for the whisper of leaves. The sun filters through the canopy, the same way it did that day years ago. The past hasn't vanished. It's been rewritten in forgiveness. Somewhere beyond the trees, a distant trumpet carries on the wind, deep and resonant, like a story continuing. By the third morning, Amaya's trail leads deep into the forest, toward the old migration paths long abandoned by her kind. The rangers follow quietly, each step sinking into dew-heavy soil. The forest feels alive again, vibrant, pulsing, aware. They pass trees marked with tusk prints and soil, disturbed by fresh footprints. "She's showing us something," Neela whispers, her voice trembling with reverence. The air is thick with sound. Rustling leaves, distant bird calls, and beneath it all, that low rumble only elephants make, the frequency of memory itself. As they move deeper, Ravi begins to sense the truth. This isn't just a journey backward. Amaya is leading them to the reason she returned. The forest holds its breath, waiting for revelation. They arrive at a grove of old baobab trees, their trunks thick and ancient, roots like living sculptures. Amaya stops at one and rests her head gently against the bark. Ravi approaches, unsure, watching her movements. She presses her trunk to the ground, rumbling softly, the same sound she made that first night. Then, out of the brush, a smaller shape appears, a young elephant calf, cautious but curious. The rangers freeze. Neela gasps. The calf circles Amaya, touching her gently, as if recognizing her. The truth dawns slowly. Amaya has brought them here not to remember pain, but to show life continuing. Her trauma transformed into lineage, her suffering into protection. The revelation ripples through them. Nature heals through memory, not denial. Amaya's eyes soften as the calf presses close to her side. Her trunk moves in slow circles over its head, tender and protective. The rangers watch in silence, overcome by the weight of what they're witnessing. Kofi murmurs, "She led us to her herd." But it's more than that. It's legacy, an inheritance of healing. For years, they thought they had saved her. Yet now it's clear she was saving something larger, a future her kind could still inherit. The calf's eyes meet Neela's for an instant, wide and shimmering, reflecting not fear but curiosity. In that gaze, Neela feels something shift, guilt giving way to grace. Sometimes, survival isn't resistance, it's remembrance made flesh. The forest begins to stir. Faint calls echo through the trees, low and harmonic. From the distance, shapes emerge, other elephants, drawn by Amaya's voice. One by one, they step into the clearing, surrounding her in silent greeting. Ravi can barely breathe. He counts 7 of them, each scarred, each alive, survivors, wanderers, family. Amaya rumbles softly, touching trunks with each of them. It's a reunion born not of coincidence, but of instinct, a ceremony of return. The rangers lower their cameras, feeling small before the enormity of what unfolds. This is what memory looks like when shared, not sorrow, but belonging. The forest hums with unity, as if every living thing has joined the ritual. As the sun dips low, the herd begins to move. Slow, synchronized, graceful. Amaya glances back once toward the rangers, holding their gaze. It feels like a farewell, but not of distance, of trust. She turns and walks onward, calf by her side, vanishing into the light. The air is thick with stillness, yet full of peace. Ravi kneels, pressing his palm to the earth where her footprints remain. She remembered everything, he whispers, and she forgave it all. The forest answers with a breeze, warm and gentle, carrying the scent of grass and rain. For the first time, they don't follow. They simply watch, knowing the wild has its own way of remembering love. The following day dawns silent, as if the forest itself is resting after revelation. Mist rises from the earth in soft ribbons, drifting through the trees. The rangers move slowly, their voices low, their hearts still heavy from what they've witnessed. Ravi sits by the river, staring at his reflection. For years, he thought he was the rescuer. Now he understands he was the one being taught. Amaya's journey wasn't about gratitude. It was a bridge, a reminder that empathy crosses species and silence. The forest hums faintly with life, insects, birds, and the quiet heartbeat of the wild. We always thought we were protecting them, Neela murmurs beside him, but maybe they've been protecting us all along. Ravi nods, his voice soft. She showed us how to belong again. Later that afternoon, they returned to the clearing. The mound Amaya built still stands, untouched. Wildflowers have begun to sprout through it overnight, their small petals glowing in the sunlight. Neela kneels, fingertips brushing the blooms. Life doesn't wait, she whispers. Kofi joins them, his voice quiet. She planted memory, not sorrow. Around them the forest seems brighter. Birdsong louder, leaves shimmering in light. Ravi closes his eyes, listening to the hum beneath it all. The pulse of renewal. This is where despair ends and devotion begins. Every scar, every broken branch, every quiet breath of wind feels connected. Maybe that's the secret the wild has kept from us. That healing isn't an act. It's a relationship. At dusk, Ravi gathers his old journal and writes for the first time in months. His words flow slowly. reverent and raw. She didn't come back to remember pain, he writes. She came back to teach us how memory can heal. His handwriting trembles under the dim light of the fire. Across from him, Neela uploads her footage, tears streaking her dusty face as images flicker across the screen. Amaya's eye, the mound, the calf's first step. We can show the world this, she says softly. Maybe they'll finally listen. Ravi looks at her, eyes steady. If they feel what we felt, they will. Outside, the forest hums. Not in sorrow, but in harmony. When the team returns to the rescue center, word of Amaya's return spreads. Volunteers gather, faces glowing with awe. Kofi projects Nyla's footage onto the old stone wall. The forest, the mound, the calf. No narration, no music. Just the sound of wind, birds, and the low, deep rumble of elephants. People watch in silence, some with tears glistening. There's something universal in what they see. Grief becoming grace. Captivity turning to communion. The film ends with Amaya's silhouette fading into light. No applause follows. Only quiet reverence, the kind that changes people from the inside. It's not just her story, Neela whispers. It's ours, too. That night, as everyone sleeps, Ravi steps outside beneath the stars. The air is cool, filled with distant animal calls. He looks toward the horizon, where the forest meets the sky, and imagines Amaya walking somewhere beyond sight, her herd moving in moonlight. He smiles faintly. Thank you, he whispers into the wind. The grass sways as if answering. For the first time, he feels no separation between himself and the world, no border between wild and human, only shared breath and memory. The stars shimmer brighter, reflected in his eyes. In the silence, he understands connection isn't found, it's remembered. Days pass, but Amaya's presence lingers like a heartbeat beneath the forest floor. Each dawn, the valley hums with her memory, faint tremors of distant movement, the echo of her call. The rangers begin to notice changes, new elephant tracks near the river, stripped bark and mud prints smaller than hers. The herd has returned. The land feels alive again, healed by her passage. Ravi stands at the old clearing, the mound now alive with flowers, and senses her still, not as absence but as continuation. She didn't leave, he murmurs. She became part of this. The wind stirs, bending the tall grass toward the rising sun, and the earth answers softly, its rhythm synced with hers. Neela wanders alone to the ridge overlooking the valley. Her camera hangs silent by her side. She doesn't need it now. Below, the herd moves like living shadows, crossing the same river Amaya once stood beside. The sight brings tears, but not of sadness. It's the beauty of continuity, of something greater moving forward. She whispers into the air, "You came home." The forest replies in whispers of wind and the distant cry of birds. She realizes the story was never about rescue or redemption. It was about recognition, seeing the soul of the wild reflected in themselves. For the first time, she lowers the lens and simply watches, fully present. At the rescue center, Ravi and Kofi prepare new volunteers for field patrol. But something is different now. Their tones softer, their purpose clearer. They speak not of control but of coexistence. The younger rangers listen in silence, inspired by the story that has already begun to spread beyond the forest. Images of Amaya and her ritual have reached people across the world, awakening empathy that words alone could never spark. This, Ravi says, touching his chest, isn't her legacy, it's our responsibility. The forest behind them hums faintly, a reminder that understanding is not the end of the story, it's where it truly begins. Night descends again, painting the sky in deep indigo. The forest glows under moonlight, the air cool and fragrant with earth and leaves. Far in the distance, a faint rumble begins, low and resonant. Ravi steps outside, listening. Then another follows, and another, the rhythm familiar and ancient. The elephants are calling again. The sound rolls through the valley, echoing through the trees, a voice of generations. He closes his eyes and smiles. The call feels less like farewell now, more like a promise. The forest answers with wind in the trees, the night alive with harmony. For the first time, humanity and wilderness seem to speak the same language. The final morning arrives. The forest is bright, the air clear and golden. Ravi walks alone to the river, tracing Amaya's old path. Her footprints are gone, washed away by rain. Yet their presence remains in the trees, in the soil, in him. He kneels, scoops a handful of water, and lets it fall back slowly, watching it shimmer in sunlight. Memory is how the earth keeps breathing, he whispers. The wind answers with a soft rustle. As he rises, the camera pans wide, the river flowing endlessly, birds taking flight, the forest alive and whole. The voiceover fades with his final words. Every life leaves an echo. Ours just learned to listen.